Hello everybody and welcome back to part 16 of Our Life Beginnings. And always, let's get back into the game. Well, say what you want about them, but at least your moms never tried to pay someone to be your friend. I thought that was gone. I thought that was done. I just don't want to... Yeah, nope. You didn't tell them. You just didn't want to have that talk with Cove. But I can't. We can't deal with that. Maybe you would in the future, but you knew you weren't right now. I feel kind of bad. Time passed, but you didn't really notice. The two of you were busy, making plans for the rest of the summer and chatting about your respective days. Eventually, you heard a muffled holler from a different part of the house. You and Cove raised your head in unison. It's time for dinner. Cove watched the firmly shut door he had been locked behind for most of the night, but he didn't make a move to get up from the bed. You couldn't see his face, so you didn't know what expression he was wearing. What is he? I'm glad you came. Cove peeked at you from the side. It's been awkward. Did his dad and mom, get back together? Is that what's happening? I get that. It's been hard on you, huh? You felt sympathetic towards him. You didn't know what he was going through, but you cared about him. Cove said nothing else and remained sat where he was. Now would be as good a time as any to ask why his parents so suddenly wanted you to come over. Is there a reason they wanted me to come over tonight? We're gonna ask. It hasn't been awkward for just me. Sometimes it gets like this, when no one else is around, but now you're here. Huh? You hadn't considered that, but it sort of made sense in a way. There was another shout from outside, too muffled to actually know the words, but you could imagine what they were. Let's go. Cove finally got up, lumbering away with his shoulders sagged. You followed after him. Together, the two of you made your way back to the living room. As you expected, Cove's parents were politely waiting for you at the kitchen table, beside the windows overlooking the back of the house. Food had been prepared and set. Mr. Holden beamed at you and Cove took your places. I hope everyone's hungry. I cooked up a feast. Yeah. I know I am. Yeah. Cove's mumbled response wasn't nearly as upbeat as theirs. His parents didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Mr. Holden instead looked at you, grinning.
Thanks.
Let's all just take a moment to thank our special guest for being with us here tonight. I'm so glad you were able to make it, Jamie, and on such a short notice, too. You thanked Cove's parents back for inviting you. You didn't say anything to that. You just felt awkward about the situation. We're gonna say thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for both inviting me.
Right.
Well, that's it. Everyone, please dig in. You can help yourselves to the food. Upon his encouragement, you looked over the meal spread out in front of you. Oh, it's Mexican food. There was a large garden salad in the center, surrounded by a variety of Mexican dishes. There were a lot of sides and optional sauces to add. Oh, this sounds so good. You made careful note of the dishes that had meat. Thankfully, it didn't seem to be all of them. Oh, yeah, I forgot we're vegetarian. Thank goodness Jamie remembers for us. The three other people here were omnivores. Cove's dad might have made some of the dishes especially for you, since he was aware of your vegetarianism. You were very happy about these options. You could work with this. You weren't exactly a fan. This kind of just surprised you. We're happy with the options. You loved Mexican food, and there were so many dishes to choose from. You were practically drooling. Utensils and plates scraped and clinked together as the group began filling their plates. Cliff, could you pass the salsa verde? Of course. Thanks. Thank you. Let me just say, you really outdid yourself tonight. I'm so jealous. Jealous of what? Your cooking's nothing to sneeze at, Kyra. Cove's parents made small talk, filling the silence with what seemed to be barely any effort. You chimed in as well. Did it take a long time to cook all this, Mr. Holden? Oh, not at all. Sure, there is more than I usually make for me and Cove, but I enjoyed every second of it. Might have gone faster if you had some help, though. Cove's mom grumbled, but it was lighthearted. Mr. Holden chuckled and shook his head. Not this again. I make the rules here and I say guests don't cook. Even when they're staying for literal weeks?
Come on.
Even then. Everything looks great, Dad. As always. Thanks, sport. Glad you think so. Cove smiled. It was genuine, even if it was strained at the corners. Brief silences interspersed the small talk. You piled some food on your plate, waiting for your turn if someone was serving themselves a dish that you had your eye on. Once the food had been divided and things settled down, Cove's parents started talking again. Now then, you sat up in your seat when you noticed they were both looking at you. No. Okay. Okay. Don't put all the attention on me, please. How has everything been over at your house? Are your moms well? You've been keeping busy this summer? Or maybe you're just trying to take it easy during the break? You felt overwhelmed by the sudden rush of questions. You were more than happy to answer. You were surprised but didn't mind the interest. You felt uncomfortable with the attention. I like this one. You were surprised but you didn't mind the interest. You hadn't expected so many questions, and all at once. Still, what else was there to talk about apart from how the summer was going? You answered how things were at your house. You told them how your moms were doing. You mentioned things you'd done this summer. We'll say how things are going at the house. It's been good. It's been good is what you said, but you didn't mean it. It's alright. It's not that great. I don't want to talk about it. Should we say it's alright because of the whole situation? I think that makes sense. It's alright. Well, I mean, I'll say it's been good. Other than the one hiccup, honestly, right? I think. I mean, there's been a couple of weird things, but it's been good.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's wonderful. You told them what your moms were doing. My moms are great. Moms are fine. They're the same as always. You should ask my parents about it yourself. Are we just gonna be positive? Just get the positivity. My moms are great. We're just gonna go straight positive across the board. Mom took us out for dessert a couple weeks ago since her project went really well. Is that so? I'll have to congratulate her when I see her. You mentioned things you've done this summer. I'm not sure where to start. There's so much that's happened. You should know what I've been up to since so much has included your family. I haven't really done much. We'll do, again, the top one. Mr. Holden's brows raised when you answered with that. You sure are keeping yourself busy. I could learn a thing or two from you. And that was that for your question answering. Kyra nodded along. You could tell she was actually listening to the words you were saying. She was trying to include you, not humor you. Did you know, Cliff, Jamie is really into music? Oh, are these all the things that we said with her at the restaurant? Mr. Holden's face lit up, and he stopped eating so he could lean forward, his arms braced against the table.
Nice work.
Oh, that's right. Very cool. It's just a hobby. I'm pretty serious about it. Oh, it's not a big thing. It's just a hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to do things just for fun. Everyone needs a hobby. I've been thinking of picking up wood carving myself. You couldn't tell how serious he was being about that declaration. Thanks. Ko's parents were definitely the encouraging type, but you could already tell that much about them. There was a lull in conversation as everyone focused their attention on their respective plates. You noted for the first time that Cove's parents were the ones guiding the conversation. You wondered if you should break the silence this time. You brought up your own topic of conversation. You left coming up with a conversation topic to them. Let's come up with our own. Let's see what happens. I also like other things. Would you like to tell us more? Yeah, absolutely. They looked genuinely eager for you to keep talking, so you did. The rest of dinner continued just like that, with light conversation as you ate your meals. Eventually, all the dishes on the kitchen table were pretty much gone. Kyra set down her fork and rested her arms at her sides, letting loose a satisfied sigh. Her plate was completely empty. That was delish. Thank you for your culinary creations, Cliff. Mr. Holden was like a flower soaking up the rays of the sun. He beamed, flattered by the praise. You ate way too much. You ate until you were satisfied. You tried not to eat too much, even though it was good. We ate way too much. Of course we did. You practically licked your plate clean. You were so full that you were afraid you might burst. Cove successfully kept his presence to a minimum for the full meal. He was slumped over, even now, toying with his silverware. Like, were we supposed to be like the conversation blocks? We didn't really have to deal too much with them? Is that what was happening here? His parents practically only talked to you. Most attempts to entice him to join the conversation failed. It wasn't typical for him to say so little. He at least tried to participate. You didn't get much time to contemplate Cove's situation because your attention was taken by Mr. Holden pointedly clearing his voice. Not to sound like a broken record, but thanks for coming, Jamie. I'm glad we finally got the chance to have you over for a real dinner. What? Did I hear that right? This is the first time Jamie has ever had dinner here? Why in the world hadn't you invited him over sooner? Cove was always the one going over to Jamie's house until now. I mean, how was I supposed to reject the generous offers of the Pumpernickel family to host my kid? It's true. Kyra shook her head, but the amused smile she was sporting told you that she wasn't actually mad. This guy, honestly. The three of you looked at Cove in unison, his small sound being more than enough to get the focus on him after his silence. By now, he'd stopped fiddling with his fork. Aww. Would it be alright for Jamie to stay over, like, for the night? He shot you a shy glance then, smiling a little. If you're cool with that. Mr. Holden's shoulders stiffened. He sat up straighter, eyes darting back and forth between you and Cove, his mouth open but not a peep came out. You'd never seen Cove's dad say no to him before, but this was different than the usual request. It wasn't so simple and Mr. Holden was lost. Then Cove's mom reached out and took a hold of his shirt collar. She pulled him closer. She glanced at you before leaning in and bringing a hand up in front of their faces. The two adults whispered seriously to each other. Cove's eyes opened wider. He leaned forward, as if that would help him overhear his parents' conversation. Mr. Holden kept gesturing with his hands while Kyra made sure he didn't get too far away with all his movements. Every now and then, both of them would watch you and Cove out of the corner of their eyes. It didn't seem like they were fighting to you. They looked more like some kind of tiny sports team having a private huddle. After a bit, they broke the powwow. They moved back to sit properly in their chairs. You snuck a look at Cove. He stared at them expectantly. You were eager to hear their verdict too. We, Kyra and I, think that should be fine, but... He lifted a finger dramatically. His brows raising as he met Cove's gaze and then your own. We'll have to talk with Jamie's parents to make sure they'd be comfortable with it. If they are, we can arrange for a sleepover to happen on a different night when everyone is more prepared. If Jamie's folks don't like the idea, there's nothing we can do. He finished the mini speech with a wide shrug using his full arms. He also checked out Kyra from the corner of his eye and gave her a crooked smile. She nodded approvingly and grinned back. You thought you saw her give him a thumbs up, but her hand was partially blocked by the table. They looked so pleased with themselves over the answer, but they just passed the actual decision on whether it was alright or not to someone else, namely your parents. If this was a sports game, they would have punted the ball away. Cove hung his head deflated. He had been hoping you could stay over today, not some hypothetical time in the future. You gave him some words of encouragement, you patted him on the back. Psst, I'll sneak the phone into my room tonight. Hey, you could always sneak into my room again. You pouted about it too. Alright, so do we want to do encouragement? Or do we want to sneak a phone into our room tonight? Yeah, we'll do the phone thing. I kind of want to see what would happen if we do this. If you get your home phone too, then we can still talk, even though it'll be back home. Cove's eyes sparkled at the suggestion. It may or may not end up being possible, but it was worth trying. With that, dinner finally came to an end. Mr. Holden stood up from the table and began collecting empty plates. Cove was asked to help out, which he did with little fuss. Kyra tried to lend a hand as well, however Mr. Holden didn't let her. It seemed she was barred from cleaning as well as cooking. You weren't allowed to chip in either, since you were there as the declared guest of honor. Although the meal was over, the night wasn't. It looked like you weren't going home just yet after all. You were asked to wait on the couch. While Cove and his dad were cleaning up the mess, Kyra disappeared down the hall after shooting you a wink. It was a bit strange sitting by yourself while everyone else had something to do. Luckily, you weren't alone for long. We're gonna play like charades? I think we play charades. After a couple minutes, Cove's mom returned with a deck of cards in hand. Okay. She strolled into the room confidently while shuffling. So, who's up for a few rounds? Cove and his dad looked over their shoulders at the question. They were mutually intrigued by the cards in her hands. She beamed at their expressions and stepped further into the living room. Ignoring the couches, she sat cross-legged on the floor by the coffee table. She turned to you and gestured at the space beside her, smiling invitingly. You accepted and followed her lead. The living room carpet was soft, though the hardwood floor underneath could definitely still be felt. Kyra did an overhand shuffle while she waited for the others to finish their tasks. The smile had yet to leave her lips. This is going to be good. Oh man. You were excited, you were nervous, you were bored, you were kind of annoyed. You enjoyed her enthusiasm. We're excited. Games are fun. You enjoyed card games, and it would be fun to play with Cove and his parents. It didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Cove's dad appeared first. Followed closely behind Cove, Mr. Holden rubbed his hands together in anticipation. Alright, I'm ready. As he took a seat across from you on the floor, you noticed that Cove hadn't joined him. He went straight down the hall instead, without a word. What? You stared on confused as he disappeared through his bedroom door. Cove's parents didn't look concerned at the stunt. Kyra nonchalantly split the deck of cards into two and rifled the halves together while offering an explanation of sorts. Cove doesn't keep his wallet with him when at home. He puts it away. What? Are we about to gamble? What are we doing? Cove quickly returned to the living room, a black wallet in his hand. He took a place at the foot of the table with the rest of you. You blinked as Cove unzipped his wallet. You all use real money on card games with family? While you sat there, your hands idle in your lap, the three shot looks at one another and sized each other up. That's right, $5 per round per person. Winners take all. Go big or go home. Oh, are you planning on kicking Jamie to the curb? Or do you intend on donating to the Guest of Honor's pot, Mr. High Roller? What are we doing right now? What is this? Mr. Holden narrowed his eyes and leaned back against the side of the couch, completely at ease.
No worries.
If Jamie wants to play, I'll fund his way in. Don't you worry about that. He rested an arm across the top of a knee that he propped up. Cove's dad was acting slick in a way you'd never seen before. You appreciated his offer, you joked he shouldn't be so confident, you felt awkward about the situation. His surety in this was pretty appealing, you ignored it. We are gonna go with, you joked that he shouldn't be so confident. Because this is gonna go downhill really quickly. Are you sure? Adding me could be spelling your doom. Right you are, Jamie. I hope you can back that attitude up. You know I can, Kyra. You can let me pay for Jamie. He's my friend. Mr. Holden grinned with a chuckle. Alright, bud. I concede. You're too polite for me. Oh my god, Cove, no! Well, you've got your ticket. Interested in throwing in? You glanced around. This seems like serious business. In response to your consternation, Kyra softened her competitive smile. Don't worry too much. We'll probably just do some rounds of Go Fish tonight. No biggie. What do you think? You join in. We got this. We like card games. Didn't know we were gonna bet on it. I'd love to play. Mr. Holden gave you a big thumbs up, while Cove nodded firmly back. You were really good at Go Fish. You were decent at Go Fish. You left it all to luck. You were always bad at... We leave it all to luck. Duh. I mean, I guess it is a memory game, but... Card games were mostly about chance, after all. Fantastic! We'll play for however long everyone wants to keep going, or until people start running out of cash, but are still refusing to quit while they're behind. Speak for yourself, I see. Oh, speaking for yourself, I see. With a laugh, Kyra nudged you using an elbow, then motioned towards the other two with her chin. Don't be fooled by their soft faces. These boys are sharks. Their eyes all snap. In reaction to her words, Mr. Holden smirked and Cove's eyebrows became more angled. Kyra's phrasing made you think back to when you were young, specifically of Mr. Holden's favorite shark pants that he used to wear all the time. Perhaps they had been a fit for him in ways you didn't know of. You could feel tension in the air. Cove and his parents glued their eyes to one another, then all placed $5 bills in an empty space in front of them. Cove dropped an extra one for you, giving you a tiny smile after he did. Once this was done, Kyra began dealing out cards to everyone. It was time to begin. The first round came and went quickly, with the group getting into the groove of things. You won right away, which meant you had money to keep playing the second round. You're a natural! Nicely done. You'd better keep those wits about you for the next round, though. As the night went on, so did the games. Mr. Holden would jokingly shake his fist whether someone other than him got a pair. Kyra acted as a news anchor, reporting on every move everyone made by speaking into her curled fist. Yes, I am Kyra. Cove was still a few words, but now it was because he was focused on the game instead of being overcome with awkwardness. Most of the time, you even spotted a smile on his lips. You won quite a few games to your delight. You had a hefty money pile on your side of the table. You must regret paying Jamie's way in now, huh? No way. Jamie might be beating me, but he's also beating you two. Cove turned towards you and smiled, looking pleased at your ability to match his mom and dad. You grinned at him, touched by his speedy comeback. It became clear that where the money went in the moment didn't really matter. They ended up giving it back to one another in other ways, and not just through more rounds of cards. You sat back, looking over the scene. A tiny smile grew on your face. Cove's family was pretty cool, you thought. You were glad you got this chance to come over and spend time with the three of them. That was really cute and really, really fun. With that, we just have one more to go before we will end the summer and then move on to step 3. Yeah, I think I am now completely okay with Cove's parents. I still want to know a little bit more about them and why he still feels awkward around them. I mean, obviously it's your parents that are no longer together, and then now they're together and acting like everything is normal, so that's probably freaking weird. But yeah, they seem cool. They seem fine. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And if you want to keep seeing more, please hit that subscribe button. Bye!